the Roundup.
Welcome to the Roundup, where we give you a whole bunch of news in a whole bunch of different sports. Right now, breaking news today out of the NCAA, Fab Melo, the center for the Syracuse men's basketball team, was been ruled ineligible for the March Madness tournament due to, what is it, eligibility issues?
Eligibility issues.
Tony, what does this mean for the Syracuse team in the tournament?
I mean, they're in a lot of trouble, obviously, because think about the 4 number 1 seeds. They all have the best big men in the league, with Henson, and Kentucky has great big men. I mean, you're going to lose your star big man. You're not going to be able to be a down-low presence in the NCAA tournament. I mean, he averaged 6 rebounds a game and 3 blocks a game. And if you're losing that, you're going to be in a lot of trouble, because they're going to be driving it to the post on you and posting up on you all day. They're already a terrible rebounding team as it is. I mean, they're over 100th in the NCAA in rebounding, which is atrocious to enter the tournament. He's been suspended before, earlier in the season, and for 3 games, and they went 2-1, where they lost to Notre Dame, and they're a Big East team, and they ended up struggling in the Big East tournament too, and losing to Cincinnati, because with Fab Melo too, so they're obviously going to struggle against good teams in the tournament without their big man, big center, and their offense.
All right. Mark, with Syracuse's chances pretty much shot with the loss of Melo, who do you like coming out of the East region now?
Well, with Syracuse out, I like Ohio State in the East region. One particular player, Jared Salinger, big guy, their sophomore forward for the Ohio State Buckeyes. He leads the team in points per game and rebounds per game, and he's a force in the paint. He's just a great player, and it's going to be hard to stop for any team. In addition, Ohio State doesn't have too many teams that they're going to really face a challenge with until the Elite Eight. I know they start off playing Loyola of Maryland, first round, they're a 15 seed. They go on, they play the winner of Gonzaga, West Virginia. Also nothing very special. And the hardest challenge that they could face is Sweet 16 when they play Florida State, where they could face Florida State. I don't see any huge upsets for Ohio State, and I kind of predict them to go to the Final Four and take advantage of the fact that Syracuse could be knocked out pretty soon.
Okay, well, sticking with basketball, but going over to the NIT tournament, it is currently 41-31 UMass at halftime in first round action in the NIT against Mississippi State. So that should be it for the rest of our show in terms of the UMass updates. Moving on, we'll return back to the Dwight Howard subject we brought up back in our basketball segment. He's in the final year of his contract. He's been all back and forth all year. People have been saying they're going to trade him. When's it going to happen? It's a foregone conclusion. They should try to keep him. Tony, what do you think they should do with Dwight Howard?
Well, the thing is that they told him that he basically had choice over who was going to be in charge of the team. They told owner Richard DeVos told Dwight Howard that if he signed a long-term extension, which they were trying to get him to do by telling him they would sign a big-name player, they told him he was in charge of. He could pick Stan Van Gundy to stay as the coach, and he could also pick Otis Smith as the GM. So now he has control over Otis Smith, his job, the GM job, and the coach. Like, are you going to try and give him the team? Like, you might as well just give him the team, part owner, part everything. I mean, that's ridiculous. You can't put a player in that position to have to pick something like that for the team. And they're already struggling as it is, too, because they don't have the best line out there. They don't have the best, squad, but I don't know. That's just a crazy thing. I've never heard anything like that. Right. But
Mark, what did you think? I mean, is this fair to the rest of the team?
I really don't think it's fair. I think it's just going to create an unhappy situation in the locker room. Players are going to be divided. It's just going to be unhappiness. And I don't really think it's fair. I think they should just, with the trade deadline coming up in the next couple of days, they should look at who they have, what are the options, see if they can trade anyone away, trade Dwight Howard away, get any good guys in return for him, and start looking at life after Dwight Howard for the Orlando Magic. A couple teams that were possibly interested. I know one of the Chicago is a possibility. The Lakers, they were looking possible trade for Pau Gasol. Just different things, but it all depends on whether or not he signs the extension. He also has a player option next year, and but I think they really have to move on beyond that, because if he doesn't sign a long year extension, it's one of those things where are we just going to be going through this next year? And I think they really should start moving on talks are that he wants to go possibly play in Dallas in the future, have a long-term deal with Dallas. Have when the Nets move to Brooklyn, he wants to be the face of the franchise there and just start over. So I really don't think it's fair for the other players on the team. They should look to see what they can get for him. Obviously, they don't want to get nothing in return. We saw that back when Shaq played with the Magic, back when he was young, and they didn't get anything in return. Obviously, that's something that they're going to want to look for to get something in return. But I think they should just move on, put this behind them, and there's no way that they can choose the ownership, allow him to have like almost part ownership with the team, and he's a player on the court. It doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah,
So definitely something.
I agree.
Yeah.
And I mean, if you're going to try and keep him to stay, just give the man what he wants. He wants a team. He wants a good players around him. Like, that's all you need to do to give him what he wants. He'll stay in Orlando, but you just got to give him players. He doesn't want ownership. He doesn't want that. He just wants to win a championship with good players.
Well, he's already created turmoil with the players. So how are you going to be able to keep those players that are already in the team?
I completely agree.
It's one of those things like, what are you going to do now? Like, the other players are probably already upset. They've already seen all this thing. They've been going through they've had to face the Dwight Howard problems the entire year. Is it one of those things? What happens next? It's like, are the same players? Are we going to see this with other players? Or in the future, are we going to see if they make trades for other guys, bring in other guys, and they leave, does the same thing happen again? Is Dwight Howard going to ever be happy is kind of the question that comes up.
Yeah, it's just been a big distraction for all of the Orlando Magic.
Well, I guess we'll see what happens at the deadline, but it kind of sounds like a foregone conclusion that he's probably not sticking around.
Yeah.
I mean, we can only wait and see, I guess. We'll wrap things up here with NFL free agency began today at 4 p.m. There's already been a few moves. Tony, kind of tell us what has happened so far and maybe who's still on the market.
Well, the deadline was today at 4, and it was crazy. Right at 4, teams started signing players. Yesterday, actually, Randy Moss got signed to the San Francisco 49ers for 1 year. Also, there was a couple trades today with Brandon Marshall being traded to the Bears from the Dolphins, and for two third-round picks, which is, I don't think, enough for a top 15 receiver in the league. Also, earlier this week, the Redskins had traded the Rams their first-round picks for the next 3 years, which is pretty much demoralizing your team because you're not going to be able to pick up any youth that you might need. But they're trying to get Robert Griffin III and build around him by signing Eddie Royal and Pierre Garçon receivers around him. So they could have a potential to have a good offense there, and they already have a pretty good defense to start. But also, there's a lot of players that haven't been picked up yet that have been talking to teams in the past couple hours, which is such as Mario Williams, who's been talking to the Bills, who's scheduled to talk to the Bills tonight, and that could be deadly for the Bills. Also, Vincent Jackson is possibly talking to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers to sign with them. Also, Cortland Finnegan, which is one of the top cornerbacks in the league, has been talking to the Rams. And also Reggie Wayne, he just wants to stick with Peyton. He wants to break records with Peyton, and we'll be talking about Peyton soon.
Oh, yeah. Like you brought him up. Obviously, the biggest name in free agency is quarterback Peyton Manning, released by the Colts last week. Mark, I mean, what's the deal here? Where do you see him heading?
Well, so far, I mean, he's talked to the Denver Broncos, he's talked to Arizona, he's talked to Miami, and he has a scheduled meeting with the Tennessee Titans. It's going to be interesting to see what he does, where he goes. I know the 2 meetings that he had with Denver and Arizona both went very well. He both toured the facilities there and liked what both managements had to say about the teams. I know with Miami, Miami traveled to Indianapolis to meet with him. Didn't sound like the meeting went too well. At least to Peyton standards. I know Miami has a new coach, the former Green Bay Packers offensive coordinator, Joe Philbin. So inexperience at head coach, that could be one of the things that Peyton doesn't look for, doesn't want, especially with the trade of Brandon Marshall today by Miami. They're kind of getting rid of the top talented receiver. That's also something Peyton Manning probably doesn't want. He's going to want those top name receivers. So if Miami's getting rid of him, I kind of see him going to the Tennessee Titans. I know he went to college in Tennessee. He's done a lot for the state. And on top of that, the Titans have also going after one of his good friends that he's played many Pro Bowls with, offensive guard Steve Hutchinson, who a free agent, used to play for the Minnesota Vikings, and good friend. So if Hutchinson signs with the Titans, he's going to have great protection. Peyton can trust that guy. And on top of that, I see with Manning, the whole Manning issue, both Eli and Peyton, it's kind of a family issue. They want to be the face of the NFL. They want both Eli and Peyton, and the family's really kind of pushing to have that possibility at those two players playing in a Super Bowl. And if they sign with Tennessee, we'd still have the AFC, NFC with the two brothers. The possibility still exists for them to sign, to eventually someday play in the Super Bowl. And so I see him going to the Titans. They have a lot of cap space. They can sign another big name. You talked about Reggie Wayne possibly staying with Peyton. I could see that happening. And the Titans, the last week of the season, they were playoff contention going up into the last week. They ended up losing. A couple other teams won, so they didn't make the playoffs. But they were so close this year, and with a great quarterback, I think they can definitely do some damage in the playoffs next year.
I mean, you got to assume that the Peyton sweepstakes has to be ending soon. I mean, he's actually, through no fault of his own, I mean, he's actually holding up other free agents because quarterbacks don't want to sign somewhere and then have Peyton sign there too, and then they're, all of a sudden they're an automatic backup. Yeah. So I'm looking that should probably be done within the next 48 hours, you would think.
I mean, I don't think there's any question about his health. He's passed all the tests. All the doctors have said he's ready to go. He's going to go back to 2 years ago. The numbers-wise, he should be right there. Everyone's saying they're going to be. And, I mean, the Colts are just rebuilding now with their first-round pick. So it'll be interesting to see where he does end up.
It certainly will. All right. Tony Bolduc, Mark Daily, thank you guys very much.
No problem.
All right. That's it for this week's live edition of UMass Sports Weekly. For everyone here, I'm your host, Joe Tempest.